want to welcome you back to the Triple Thread podcast. I'm Lamar.
And I'm Joey.
And we are tonight so excited to have our VIP, which stands for?
Very important podcaster.
Mr. Ray Snedegar. Ray, thanks for being here today.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you,
Welcome.
gentlemen.
Yeah, we're excited about a story that I think this will be one of the fan favorites.
This is going to be big.
Yeah, this man literally has been around the world and back, and so we're going to get to know Ray a little bit. I met Ray a number of years ago through our Warrior Weekend to Remember, which is annually there is a group of Purple Heart recipients and Gold Star families that come together that the Heart family has encouraged, and that was something that I'll never forget, meeting a lot of these people. And on that particular weekend some years ago, I get to meet Ray. So Ray, welcome to the Triple Thread podcast.
I'm glad to be here. Honored to be here.
Yeah. So Ray, tell us a little bit about you. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you graduate? Where'd you go to school? Give us some info.
I was born and raised in Kentucky, Grange City, Kentucky, which is just another border stop in the road. And I went to, my dad was a tenant farmer, so he worked for $1 a day during World War II. We lived on that. And I went to grade school in Hillsboro, Kentucky.
Okay.
Then I went further into grade school as we moved from farm to farm at Washington. And then I went to Lewisburg. And then I graduated from Mays Lake High School right outside of Maysville.
Oh my goodness, Maysville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of flooding that sometimes happens in Maysville. So you are from the great state, the Commonwealth, if you will, of Kentucky, which I've got some special people in my life.
Yes,
my wife is from southeastern Kentucky, Laurel County.
Okay, I know where that's at.
Born and raised, and my uncle graduated from the University of Kentucky. He's a Wildcat, so yeah. So Kentucky.
My granddaughter just graduated Friday from University of Kentucky.
Oh my goodness! What'd she study, Ray?
She was in business and marketing.
Oh my goodness!
And she works for the Reds right now. She's been interning for the Reds.
Go.
And they're not paying enough money for her to stay there, so she's already got a new job. She starts ADP, which is a human resources company,
ADP,
in July the 13th, and she's going to work for the Reds until July the 3rd.
Oh my goodness! So July the 3rd. So I guess Grandpa doesn't get free tickets
Right.
after.
No, after that I won't get free tickets.
Did you get some tickets on her dime?
Yes, I did.
That's
but
awesome.
they're in the cheap
The
seats.
nosebleeds. The nosebleeds.
No box.
Are you a baseball fan, Ray?
Yes.
Okay.
You may not have known this, but I'm the driver and chauffeur for Hal McCoy.
Oh my goodness.
I've been his chauffeur since 2012, since he can't drive.
Ray, thank you for reminding me about that powerful, powerful thing. In fact, we may have the good chance, because he could just drive him here, to listen to Hal McCoy. But Hal McCoy is, man, he's worldwide. Hal McCoy is, yeah. So this guy has been the driver because of Hal's vision or lack thereof.
Wow.
So, man, you've heard baseball story after baseball story.
Somebody tell me what is the best part of your job at driving to and from the ballpark. He just talks and talks and talks about baseball. I don't even have to ask a question.
He just continues to go.
Right.
Is Hal still going to the ballpark?
We're not going to the ballpark now. He writes about them from home in his man cave.
Okay.
He watches them on TV and still writes about them.
Oh my goodness, that's one. Just think about this. Ray's claim to fame. Oh, he's just a chauffeur for this guy by the name of Hal McCoy. Who, if you don't know who Hal McCoy is, you've been living under a rock. So baseball's a great sport, and Cincinnati started out so well. And then they just lost a bunch of games.
And he went on vacation to St. Simon's Island, and they lost. They won 7 straight. They lost 8 straight while he was on vacation, and they started winning again when he came back.
Oh my goodness! So he needs to not go on vacation.
Yeah, that's
right?
what I told him.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Ray, so growing up in Kentucky. And what brought you? I mean, there was probably a circuitous route, but how did you end up here in Ohio? And probably the story would start in Kentucky and continue on. How'd you end up here?
Well, I grew up as a kid of a tenant farmer, so I tell people all the time, I took my senior trip to Vietnam to get out of farming. I mean, I've never looked back. I never looked back.
Wow.
And I just left. I joined the military before I got out of before I graduated, but they didn't take me till after. So they took me 8 August. I graduated 1 June.
Wow. So you were, I'm assuming from the beauty of his shirt that he's wearing, you went into the Air Force.
Right.
Yeah. So basic training. How was basic training, Ray?
It wasn't that bad. It's not as bad, not as lenient as it is now, but it wasn't that bad. I didn't think it was that bad. I grew up on a farm.
That's what I was going to say. Was it easier than being a tenant farmer, right?
Oh, much better.
Yeah, the farm taught you a lot. You wanted to run away. So where did you do basic training, Ray?
I did basic training in Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio.
San Antonio, Texas. And what was your, I call it an MOS, but what was your training in the Air Force?
Well, I started out in security service. I was a Morse code copier. I listened to spies talking all over the world. I wear shirts that say I wasn't there. Don't ask me questions. But I did that for 3 years in Japan. I worked for the National Security Agency for the last year and a half.
The NSA.
And in civilian clothes there. And I was monitoring Francis Gary Powers the night he got shot down.
Wow.
Over Russia. But I didn't know who Francis Gary Powers was. I just knew something important was happening. I found out later.
So take our listeners back, or our viewers back to that name. Some people may not be know that name, but you were listening to a guy who was pretty famous, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And he got shot down. Spent 5 years in a Russian prison, and we traded one of their spies for allegedly he was spying, but he was.
Wow. So you were listening. So Morse code, you were a specialist in that, listening all over the world. And then from security, was that the continuation of your career in the Air Force?
I got sent back. I wanted to stay in security service and go to Fort Meade, Maryland. And, of course, they sent me to Kansas, Schilling Air Force Base, Kansas. And I was in Strategic Air Command, and I was doing basically a secretary's job. So when I came up for reenlistment, I wanted to be in the Highway Patrol, and I applied in California from Kansas. And they said, you have to be a resident of the state for 30 days before we can even accept your application. So I had a 6-month-old child then and a wife, and I thought I can't take a chance on that. So I reenlisted, and they gave me a choice of what I would like to do. And I said, I'd like to be a loadmaster. I'd like to be an aviator. I spent the last 27 years in my military flying.
Wow. So you've flown on some pretty amazing aircraft, I would say, in those
Well,
those
I started out in C-47s, which are World War II airplanes, Goonie birds.
Okay.
And
the Goonies.
And I crashed 2 of them in Vietnam.
You crashed too, and you lived to tell about it.
Yeah, I lived to tell about it. They weren't bad at all, but the last one was my bad one.
And
but
you were the was that a 1-pilot or 2-pilot airplane?
It was 2-pilot airplane.
2-pilot airplane.
And I was the loadmaster.
Okay.
I was the one that loaded the troops and loaded the cargo, et cetera. Did the weight and balance and figured out the fuel, et cetera.
Right.
But I flew the C-47. Then I went to C-119s, to C-130s, to C-141s, to C-5s.
So the C-5 Galaxy. Joe, ask this man how big a C-5 Galaxy is.
Yeah, you're going to have to tell me because
it's a big cargo plane.
You were speaking Greek to me
Yeah,
there.
so...
It's we can fit 6 Greyhound buses inside of it.
6. Yeah.
Oh.
The
6 of them.
C-5 Galaxy is
Okay.
it was. Is it still the biggest, or they have bigger planes now in the Air Force for cargo?
They did have Russia. We don't have a bigger one, but Russia had one bigger. But that's what they used to carry their shuttle on. And when the Russia-Ukraine war, they Ukraine was servicing that airplane, refurbishing it or something. The Russians bombed the hangar it was in and blew it up. There's only one in the world.
Wow. So the biggest airplane is no longer.
Still the
It's no
C-5.
longer the biggest.
So the C-5 Galaxy, 6 Greyhound buses
That's unmatched.
carry a lot of troops, a lot of supplies. And what was your favorite airplane through all of those years? You think?
I
Ray?
would say the C-130.
Okay.
I flew it a lot in Vietnam for 15 months, and I just loved that airplane. I loved the mission that we flew,
Yeah.
even though it was in combat. But
Yeah. So this guy's been in real combat. We're going to get into an incredible story, really a harrowing story. How many tours did you do in Vietnam, Ray?
3.
3 tours. First tour was when?
63
Okay.
and 65. Then I
Okay.
was in 68 and 69.
Wow. So you took some breaks in between,
Right.
right? What do you remember if I were to ask you, 63, how old were you in 1963, Ray?
I was 23.
Okay. What was that like knowing that you were going into Vietnam at that time? What are you thinking? You don't know what you don't know, but
You don't know, but at 23, you're young and you're dumb, and you just roll with the punches, you know.
right. You can take on the world, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You cannot be killed. You believe that.
Yeah. You're untouchable,
Invincible.
right? Invincible. So 23. What are some of your first sights, sounds, smells of being in Vietnam? Anything ratchet up in your mind?
Well, when you get off the airplane, the stench. I don't know what it is, but everybody will tell you the same thing. The heat
Yes.
and the humidity and
Yes.
the stench is just overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, just kind of putrid. Just a mix of so many things. Yeah, people talk about humidity here. If you haven't been in Southeast Asia, you have no idea what humidity is.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's awful. So in 63, you're going into Vietnam. What is your mission? Where are you kind of stationed when you go in for the first time?
I was stationed at Bien Hoa,
Okay.
which was not too far north of Saigon. My mission was to carry supplies out to the Army bases and Marines and stuff, and we landed in some undeveloped strips and things in a C-47, and we did a lot of that. Did air evacs back in. We'd pick up bodies and body bags and wounded people. We'd set up litters in the C-47s and carry them back in.
Yeah. What in that time, your first mission there in 63, how many months were you there before you got to come stateside again?
I was there 7 months.
7 months straight.
Yeah.
Wow. And are you thinking, I'd love to get back to the United States?
Oh, yes.
What do you I mean, besides family, what as somebody in the military, what do you miss most about being in the United States?
Well, in 63, I was missing Frisch's.
Still got a few of those around. I get it.
Yeah.
Right.
I just ate one the other day down at Eastgate.
Yeah. So literally, when you're there, are you playing this game in your mind? When I get back home, the first thing I'm going to eat is
Frisch's, Big Boy, and onion rings.
Yeah.
There you
So
go.
in Vietnam, they didn't have Frisch's in Vietnam.
No.
What were you eating? A bunch of MREs? I mean, what are you eating while
Well,
you're there?
there were sea rations at that time. World War II food.
Oh,
boy,
wow!
that was
They were in a
Wow.
can.
So they were in a can.
Yeah.
So they weren't the MREs of that we would know.
No,
then.
I've never had an MRE.
Never?
I've never tasted one.
Really, I have, and different. But so the sea rations. So what are some of the things that you're cracking open? What are some of those tasty meals that we may not understand? Do you remember some of the crazy
some
stuff?
of it was pork.
Yeah.
And that's where I learned to use Tabasco on everything. I would heat it up on the power unit that was starting the airplanes, set it on the can on top of it, and heat it up.
Yeah.
And then put Tabasco sauce on. You could eat anything with
So you
Tabasco
kill
sauce.
all the taste.
Don't eat on
Do you
it.
still eat Tabasco sauce today?
I eat Tabasco sauce on basically everything, and I put jalapenos on it too.
Oh my
That's so
goodness!
funny.
I
Oh, my
learned that
goodness.
from the Mexicans in the military.
Really, you just
Douse my eggs and
just everything.
mashed potatoes, everything.
everything.
That's
everything.
great.
That's amazing. And your stomach is done well,
I say it keeps me healthy.
man. So 7 months. During that 7 months, there were some times I'm sure that you thought, well, that was scary. Oh my.
Well, I had my first crash then. We had taken off. We had basically no security in those days. The South Vietnamese were guarding our airplanes, and they may have been the communists, for all we know. And we took off one day, and I wasn't supposed to be on the airplane. We were on a mail run to Saigon, and the mechanic had missed a satchel charge that had been placed in number 1 engine, and he didn't see it on pre-flight. And we got to about 500 feet, and I was sitting on the left side, and they were watching the number 2 engine because they had a magneto drop on it. I would just happen to be looking at the left engine, number 1. It exploded. The satchel charge went off at about 500 feet. Shrapnel came through the airplane right in front of me. And of course, we were in a left bank at that time, turning towards Saigon. And the aircraft commander radioed back that said, we're going to try to land in a field out here. Well, when he got to the field, he decided he probably could make the runway. Well, it's a good thing we didn't land in the field because it was mined. We didn't know that at that time. So we circled around, finally got the airplane level with just 1 engine on it. And the fuselage made the runway, but the gear didn't. So we went spinning down the runway. We crashed on the runway. It all happened so quick. I really wasn't scared at all until I got out of the airplane, and then my legs wouldn't hold me up.
I'm sure.
Just thinking about what
all
could
of
have happened.
all of that hits you.
Yeah.
So when you say a satchel charge, I mean that the enemy had packed in the engine. How were they detonating those satchel charges?
By altitude.
Really?
Yeah.
So the altitude would detonate the charge?
Yes.
Wow. So almost like a mercury or
I don't know how they put it together.
Unbelievable. So that was when you stepped out of the airplane, that's when you began to buckle, right?
Oh yes, my knees were buckling. I looked around and I saw where we were skidding down the runway, doing 360s. And
how many people would have been in the airplane? Because it was a mail run. So how many people would have been in the airplane?
Nobody but the crew.
Nobody but the crew. Wow.
There was 5 of us in the airplane.
Oh my goodness. So that's first time you experienced that, and you're thinking, okay, I walked away from that. So what did they do with the airplane? I mean, when
they scrapped it basically.
Yeah,
they pulled it off the side and scrapped it.
It was done. And had you landed in the field, your life would have been over.
Oh yes, it'd been over.
Yeah, been over. So yeah.
God was with us that day.
Yeah.
He made it.
Yeah.
Matt, we're not going to land there.
Yeah. So before going to Vietnam, Ray, I don't know, what were you? Did you know anything about God? Was God kind of distant to you? I mean, what?
He was. Well, let me put it this way: I was raised a Catholic. My mother was a strict Catholic.
Okay.
So when I left home, I wanted no more to do with that. It was so rigid, so strict. And I didn't want anything to do with that. So I left God for a while. And, I still believed in God, but I didn't attend church, and I didn't do a lot of things I should have done. Bless my mother. She's listening to me right now. Yeah. But I just wasn't into religion, but it was so rigid for me. And I think it still is.
Yeah, you couldn't. You were you looking for something different than what you saw?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Something different.
And I went to Bible schools. I did all that. I wasn't ever an altar boy, thank God. I wasn't that. But
yeah. So you went to all the stuff, but there was still something that you were looking for that you felt like you hadn't found. So 63, first airplane crashes, and what were you in at that point? Would you say that was a
C-47.
C-47. So 63, you walk through that, and then you leave Vietnam, you come home, right?
Right.
And what are you thinking? Are you thinking, I'm going back? I'm not going back. I don't want to go back. I hope I don't go back.
No, I wanted to go back.
You wanted
I was
to go back?
young, and I was not bright.
Really? So you wanted to go back?
I wanted to go. I wasn't in the Army or Marines where there were grunts on the ground, near death every day.
Right.
I wasn't in that. I just felt I was invincible. So
Right.
I wanted to go back. I volunteered to go back.
Wow. So when you came back, where did you go back to Kentucky?
I went back to Hurlburt Field, Florida.
Okay.
Fort Walton Beach, Florida.
Okay.
That's where I was stationed at the time.
Okay.
And I went back there.
In '63, what was the climate like for the United States? I mean, was that at a time where people were saying we don't like this war?
No, I don't remember that then. You know,
a little early.
Everybody was okay with it, I guess, at that point.
When did things begin to really heat up that you saw kind of the disgust?
When I was at Travis Air Force Base, and I went there in '69. And then they were really picketing outside the base. Jane Fonda was out there, and people like that. And it was bad. And in my case, I was still in the military, so I was flying back every day to Air Force Base and then going home and changing out of my clothes. I wasn't like a person getting out of the military and coming back a commercial and going through airports when they were spitting on them and calling them names and all that. I didn't witness any of that. The only thing I witnessed that was in the demonstrations at Travis Air Force Base in California in the '69 through '70s.
Yeah, it was
early '70s.
It was a tough time. I know this for whatever reason, Joe. When I see people wearing the hats, Vietnam vet, I'm always quick to say this: "Welcome home, welcome home." And it's amazing how people respond. And here's what I ask: when were you in Vietnam? And they tell me. And then I'll say this to them, Ray. Well, when were you in Vietnam? You told us, but Ray, tell me, when were you in Vietnam? '63, and then when?
'65.
And then when?
'68 and '69.
Would you believe that I was in Vietnam in 1999?
I was there in 2014.
Really?
I went back to the crash site.
Did you really? Unbelievable.
I took one of the babies with me.
Unbelievable.
She was 9 months old at the time.
Yeah.
And she was an adult now. And I flew to Munich, Germany, and she was in Garmisch working at George Marshall Center. And we went to Vietnam. Went back to the crash site.
It's funny because when I tell people I was there in '99, they kind of looked at me funny, and I was like, but I was on another mission. I went to places like Cu Chi. I don't know if you ever got close to Cu Chi.
Oh, yes. I went to Cu Chi.
Yeah. Yeah. And so tell Joe about the infamous Cu Chi. When you hear Cu Chi, oh, yes, I know Cu Chi. Tell him about Cu Chi.
That was if you were in the Army, you did not want to be a little petite man. They made a tunnel rat out of you because the Viet Cong had cities built underneath the ground. They had hospitals. They had everything under there.
Under the ground.
Underground tunnels.
And the Army sent these tunnel rats down in these tunnels, and I couldn't fit in them when I went back in 2014. And they went in there with a knife and a gun and a pistol, and they didn't know what turn they went around. They'd meet a guy with a flamethrower or whatever, A lot of tunnel rats got killed over there.
Yeah.
That'd be awful.
Oh,
Worst job ever.
Cu Chi was an awful place. And when I was there in 1999, that was the thing that I think surprised me. I had this picture of what Vietnam would be, jungles would be, all of that.
Yeah.
And to me, and I'm sure, the terrain had changed because they dropped a lot of chemical and a lot of that. But I pictured all these big palm trees and stuff, jungle. But it was a lot like woods. Mm-hmm. It was a lot like the woods. That you and I would grow up in. A lot of saplings and stuff like that. So you referred to taking a lady back, and you referred to taking a baby back, and that's that's really where our story is going to turn to, Joe. When I met Ray for the first time, and I believe it was Jim Lusk introducing me, and I love Jim. Jim's one of our police officers in Middletown.
Okay.
You know, he told me, he said, this is Ray, and you need to know about it. If you don't know about it, you need to know about Operation
Babylift.
Babylift. So, Ray, tell us about Operation Babylift. This is harrowing.
I was I was flying across Pacific, and I was in the Philippines getting ready to head up to Japan and head back to California. And this is April the 4th of 1975. April the 3rd, President Ford had met in San Diego with a bunch of dignitaries, and they decided that they were going to rescue these babies. They were called Amerasians. They were American fathers, Vietnamese mothers. And there's somewhere between 20, it depends on where you read, there's between 20,000 and 80,000 children fathered during that period of time, in that 10 years. The number is probably somewhere in between.
Yeah.
But, and the communists were supposedly going to kill them. So President Ford, because they were mixed race, they didn't want them. So the communists were going to get rid of them. So President Ford and his team decided they would do what was called Operation Babylift. He signed an executive order that morning in San Diego. Of course, we didn't know anything about it. We were in the Philippines. And we reported the next morning for the flight, and it was about 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning when we got to the
Were
flight.
you in Manila, Ray? Where were you in the Philippines? Do you remember where in the Philippines?
I was at Clark Air Base.
Clark,
which,
yeah.
right next to the naval base
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And so we got to the flight line or ramp, and we were pre-flight in the airplane getting ready to go, and all these cars kept driving up with these colonels in them, and they're getting out and they're talking to the aircraft commander, et cetera. So they were asking if anybody had combat loading experience on the crew, and as a military man, you never volunteer for anything. So they went around asking about that. My hand shot up because I'd had combat loading experience in 47s and 130s.
Yeah.
So they said, come with me. So the aircraft commander and I went in and got a secret briefing, and they told us what was about to take place. And we were going to go into Saigon. How many people could we put on the airplane on that C-5?
Thanks for tuning in to the Triple Thread podcast. We are so grateful that you have spent the time to share this time with us. From Joe and I and our producer, Zach, and all that make this happen, we can't thank you enough. Also, shout out to Sandy Snowden. Wow, my assistant who keeps my life running well. Thank you so much, Sandy. Listen, if you want to learn more about community, all you have to do is type in realcommunityforyou.com. It's realcommunity, the number 4, the letter U.com, and you'll be shown some opportunities for you to be a part of community on our website, not only the Triple Thread podcast, but a way that you can, if you feel that you'd like to be a part of this, a way that you can financially help us and support this. We would so greatly appreciate it. Another thing is, too, the Dirty Big Secret, a book that was written and published last year, is an opportunity for you to pick up my memoir. I believe it will encourage you, and it will take you to a place where you realize that community is such a part and a need for our life. So Dirty Big Secret is available. You can click that link to go to Orange Fraser Press, my publisher, and purchase that. It'll be mailed to you, or you can pick it up at a Baraka location near you. Thanks again for tuning in, listening, wherever you listen, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening. Thank you so much. Let's get back to our podcast.
So I asked, well, what kind of people are we talking about? Are we talking about
Right.
Americans? Are we talking about Vietnamese? Are you talking about babies? They said, well, we don't know. And I said, well, if I can take babies, I will take 1,500 I can floor load them in the floor and put a strap over them, put a blanket down, and I take 1,500 of them. And if you're talking about Vietnamese and Americans, I could probably take 1,000. If it's all Vietnamese and babies, I could probably take 1,200. So the aircraft commander said 1,200 is the number. So that's what we went to Saigon to do. And we had 325 on board the airplane when we left there. 135 perished. 175 of us survived. And if you see the pictures of it, you'll never figure out how anybody got out of this airplane alive. Right after, well, it was chaos. Everybody was trying to get on the airplane. Every news agency in the world was there.
My goodness.
They were kind of in our way, and then there was people trying to sneak on the airplane. It's kind of like you saw in Afghanistan.
Yes. Yes.
And I always say, we never learned from our mistakes. Vietnam evacuation was a failure due to poor planning.
Yeah.
Afghanistan was a failure due to no planning. They just did it.
They just did it.
They didn't plan it at all.
Yeah.
But anyway, we finally got the people on, and we had 17 105 howitzers on board to drop off in Saigon. We got those offloaded, and back up to when the airplane left Travis, it was sitting there with 17 105 howitzers on it, and it was ready to go, even though it had 81 pages of write-ups on it. But it was C5 was ready to go. We had 100 or so pages of write-ups on it at times. It was a nightmare. But anyway, for some reason, no logic to me, they take our airplane, which is airplane A, they go to airplane B, and it needs a bell crank. So they take the bell crank off of our airplane, A, put it on B, then they go to C, airplane C, and bring a bell crank back to us. It didn't make sense at all.
Nope.
But in those days, we did what we call cannibalizing parts.
Correct.
You just took maintenance off of one airplane, took a part off it, put on another. But they did not know that the bell cranks were not interchangeable. They had to be made for the airplane. So the mechanics nobody knew that at that point. So what they think they did, they got ready to go, and it was go time, and it takes 8 hours to re-rig the back door once something is done on it. The top general on our base said, don't go through that. Just run it through manually a few times and sign it off. Well, of course, we didn't know that. So they did that, and they probably cracked that bell crank. It was probably 1,000th of an inch too short or something. And they cracked that bell crank 5 or 6 times. They ran it through manually. So each time they probably cracked it a little more. Then we get to Saigon. The first time we opened the doors, we probably cracked it a little more. When we got ready to close the doors, the light wouldn't go out inside, so that shows that everything was locked. So we recycled it another 4 or 5 times, probably cracked that bell crank a little more. So we took off. We got to 23,800 feet. Back end blew off the airplane. Took all the control cables out and 2 of the 4 hydraulic lines. So we didn't have any way to fly the airplane other than ailerons and airspeed. And we were oscillating 5,000 feet at a time. And the aircraft commander asked me to go downstairs and survey the damage. Well, the door to the cockpit had blown off and spiraled downstairs, and it cut the face off of our medic down there. And a good friend of mine who was a nurse, she was working on him, plus some other people working on him. Of course, he eventually died too. But I go down and I look back at the back, and I could see these control cables dangling in the back and red hydraulic fluid pumping out. So the first thing that popped in my mind is spaghetti. I don't know why I thought of that, but I crawled down, and we were descending at that time. We were 23.8. We fell off on the left wing, and they didn't recover the airplane till 9,000 feet. So we were going down at the time, and I was crawling uphill over people and babies, and to the back of the airplane. And there's a movie out. You can see it on Discovery Channel. National Geographic in Canada did the documentary on it, and it shows me going to the edge of the ramp that was ripped off. I didn't do that. That's Hollywood right there. And then it shows there's two things in it. I didn't do that, and it shows a telephone that hangs on your wall in the house that I radioed back to the cockpit. Well, we don't have telephones in the C-5, so I had gone back upstairs. But at that time they'd leveled out and they were oscillating.
Did they name you in the movie?
Did
they
yeah,
use
oh
your
yeah,
name?
and I'd narrate some of it.
Unbelievable!
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
neat.
Yeah.
Wow. So you crawl back
I crawled back upstairs, and
on the first loss of that part of the plane, losing children and other crew. Correct on that loss on that first
yes, yeah,
back loss.
yes.
So
Yeah.
just sucked people right out of the plane, right?
Yeah, well, one of my crew members got sucked out, and they found him 14 days later floating in the ocean, dead, obviously. And some of the babies got sucked out. They were sitting on the floor, had a tie-down strap over them. And a woman kept saying to me, "My baby's gone." Well, I could see a strap there. There was nothing under it. And I kept reassuring her that her baby wasn't gone, but it obviously was. But we don't know how many got sucked out there. But one of my crew members did get sucked out, and maybe some other adults did too. I don't know. But
And how many people initially, in your memory, how many people were loaded in the best of your estimation
Well,
that day?
my guess was 321. But people were leaving and coming in and out. That's the number I put down for 321. That's the way I did the weight and balance on it.
And you were thinking about, before leaving, 1,200? Is that
Yeah.
what you were
Yeah,
saying?
that's what I'm thinking.
So 321. Okay, so keep going.
And but the official number is by the accident report is 310. I don't know how they came up with that. Neither one of us are right. God only knows how many is on that airplane.
Right.
So we.
You're oscillating.
We're oscillating, and I'm trying to figure out why are they doing that? Well, they were doing it. They were flying till the airplane stalled,
Right.
and then they were dipping down just to try to get it turned around and get it back to Saigon to make the runway. So on the rapid decompression, I never saw my life go in front of me. I didn't see family members and all that. I just kept saying, God, if you could just put my feet on the ground, I'd be okay. And I knew that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
But that probably went through my mind probably 100 times. Just the same thought. If I could just put my feet on the ground, I'm okay. I can survive this. But I knew that wasn't going to happen either. So as we were going down, I went back downstairs again, and then one of my crew members came down to me, and he said, "We need to get our crash landing checklist, so we're going to crash land." I said, "Okay, that's a great idea." And I was in wing standardization then, the high level above the squadrons. So I go upstairs to get my crash landing checklist. We'd thrown all our book bags in the bunk rooms. And I pull my checklist out, and I'm going through it, and I go, there's no such thing as a crash landing checklist. I remember throwing it into the floor. So I tried to go back downstairs again, and the flight engineer that wasn't working was setting it back in the relief crew compartment. He starts screaming and cussing at me, and he's, "You need to sit down, And I'm going, I'm working, and you're sitting there on your rear end, and I should go have a piece of you. But I didn't. I started back down the steps again. He started yelling at me again. I turned to look at him, and the flight engineer on the panel reached back and grabbed my flight suit, jerked me back up on the flight deck. Well, he's still chirping, so I decided to go back and just have a piece of him. When I got back there, he weighed about 250 pounds. I weighed about 210 then. He reached down and grabbed my left elbow, picked me off the floor. He was sitting down, and he threw me into a seat. And I could hear the ground screaming up at me at that point. You never find your seatbelt on an airplane. You can never find it. I found mine, and I snapped it right about here. About the time it snapped, we hit the ground the first time at 329 miles an hour. Still trying to accelerate, trying to get it to fly again. And after that, it was chaotic. I mean, we landed the first time on the one side of the Saigon River. They figure ground effect take place and heat and the power that they were applying at 329 miles an hour got the airplane going. And it took all four of the main nose gear tires off, but the main gear stayed on that side. And so we flew across the Saigon River, and I'm sitting there in my seat. I'm sitting backwards. I'm looking out the window, and I see the river under me. And I thought, he must have just landed short, and he's just bouncing us over the river. Well, he had nothing to do with it. It was just God putting us across. And if we went in the river, we would all drown. Everybody on the airplane.
I'm going to go back to this. The man who picked you up and threw you in the seat, sitting down, had you not been in the seat, buckled in, things different?
Oh, I would have been halfway down the ladder when we crashed the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, I would
So-
have gotten killed. Everybody got killed in the bottom of the airplane, which
So-
I was trying to get back to.
So you think about that in the rage and in the chaos of that, and really just supernaturally, there was a man who shouldn't have had the strength to do what he did, right?
Right.
But he threw you down the seat, and somehow you snapped.
Snapped the
Snapped in.
seatbelt.
Right in time.
I found it right immediately too. You can never find it on an airline, you know.
Right.
But I got that snapped, and we landed on the other side on top of 4 Viet Cong soldiers. You imagine coming down and seeing a big C-5 landing on top of you.
So that smashed them.
Oh.
Right.
Wow.
And then at that point, everything was in real time to me till we hit the second time. Then like in a car crash, everything slows down for you. It all went into slow motion. Well, the airplane was in 4 pieces by then. The tail had broken off. The troop compartment had left with 145 babies in it, and the bottom was being shredded away with all those people downstairs.
Oh.
And I was in the cockpit up there, which I would have been down in the cargo compartment had I had my way. So it slowed down to real time, and I thought the airplane was still intact. And when it got up, the tail was kind of straight up. I thought, if it would just slow down, I'm okay. I'm still alive. If it would just stop now. And then, as it got more turning over, and I was only in the cockpit. I didn't realize the rest of the airplane had broke apart. And as it further went over, I thought if it would just hurry up, and everything is in slow motion, and it's real time, but in my mind it's in slow motion. And then when we stopped, I knew exactly where I was at. I knew I was hanging upside down in my seat. And we had 41 technical order books that stored behind the seats. Now they have it on a computer. But when I released 3 guys on the left side, the guy threw me in the seat and 2 other guys, they went running to the back of the airplane, past the galley. And so I thought, well, I probably should do that too. So I unhooked my seatbelt, and I had gotten a concussion from a table flipping up and hitting me in the head that I was bracing on. And that saved my life because debris was flying past me and hit my table, and I pulled my arms out because my arms were getting skinned up. When they released me, I knew where I was at, and then I fell to the floor. I got a second concussion. I had no idea where I was at then. And I was standing in all those technical orders. I'm standing on the roof. Airplane's upside down. And I try to open a door, which would be about 45 feet in the air. I don't know what I was going to do if I opened the door, but it was sitting on the ground. But I was trying to open the door the wrong way. I was trying to raise it up, and it was upside down. So I finally gave up on that, and I walked out into the swamp. And I got out there, and when I left the airplane and I stepped into like a marshy bog, I went up to my armpits. I crawled out of that, and you would be on hard ground walking, and then all at once you'd step in a hole, a marsh thing,
Right.
which you would sink. So I went around the airplane, and I saw a black guy that I didn't know he'd got on at the Philippines, and he was tangled up in the control cables upstairs. And we think he saw everything that happened. He got thrown up there on the first bounce and got entangled in them. And he witnessed everything that was happening down below. But he's a lunatic today. But he got medically discharged, obviously. But I went up to him, and he was black as this table. And he was almost white from the hydraulic fluid and the mud and the wheat chaff and rice chaff and all that. But all over, and his flap was hanging down over his eye. So I picked the flap up, and his eyeball was bulging out of the eye socket.
Oh.
So I thought, I can fix that. So I took a heel in my hand, I pushed it back into his eye. Mm-hmm. And then when I let go of the flap, it fell back over the eye again. I reassured him he was okay. I didn't believe that, but I just reassured him. Well, my aircraft commander found him later, and he had freed himself from up there, and he was down almost ready to drown in the marsh, and he drug him up onto dry ground and put a blanket over him and told him he'd be okay. And he didn't think he was going to live either, but he did. He was the only one to survive down there. So then I left there, and I'm listening for a smoke or a fire or smelling for a fire, because I'm always been afraid of dying in a fire. These guys were talking about it here earlier. So I didn't see any of that. I didn't smell any of that. I saw burning off to the right of me, and that was the wings who had come off the airplane and all the fuels in them, and they flew ahead of us. And so we didn't have any fire to mount anything. So then I'm carrying people. The Air America had showed up. They were at the club. They were drunk. First time I was ever glad to see drunks arrive to pick me up. And they were all drunk, flying helicopters out there. And and the South Vietnamese Air Force was out there doing things with us too, and taking people back in. And so I'm walking through the area, and I see this lady coming toward me, and she's a blonde, short blonde hair, and she's got a baby on her hip. Well, I'd been noticing her, so would all the other guys. When she was 19 years old, bronzed, blonde, no bra on, big open areas in her blouse. So she's walking toward me, and I say, "Can I help you?" And she said, "Would you put my ear back on for me?" So she hands me her ear. Oh. And it looks pretty. I reach in my pocket, I pull out my handkerchief, I wipe the side of her head down, and it was on this side. And she, it was a little earlobe there with a gold stud in it. The rest of the ear was in my hand. It looked like it had been cut off by a knife. Oh. And it had been hanging on while she was sliding around in the troop compartment, and she had ripped it off and held it in her hand. So I put it back in place. It was like putting a teacup back together and wrapped my handkerchief around it, and she walked away. So then I went over helping really getting the babies out of the troop compartment and putting them in helicopters and things. The last two people to leave the area was myself and the aircraft commander. We were put on a helicopter last, and we went back and briefed a 2-star Army general by the name of Homer Smith, and talked to people back here in the States, and et cetera. It was a bad day at Black Rock. You know, it was ugly, 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 ugly. And there is such a thing as survivor's guilt. I don't know if I have PTSD. I've never been treated for it, but I don't think I've had it. But I have survivor's guilt because one of the guys that I had put on the airplane back in California got killed. Some of the babies that got killed. I mean, what could I have done to save more of them? You know, we saved quite a few of them, but
How many babies would have survived on that?
144.
So that's 144 more babies
Yeah.
that have lived and would live.
Yeah.
Right?
Let me tell you an interesting story on that. I personally I sent everybody upstairs to the troop compartment. They were little babies or they were polio victims on crutches and things like that. They couldn't take care of themselves downstairs. So I personally sent them all up there. There's 75 seats upstairs in the troop compartment on a C-5, 73 for passengers, 2 for the loadmasters to take care of them. I put 145 babies in 175 seats,
You doubled them up.
6 across.
Doubled them up.
And 144 of those babies survived.
Wow.
And the only baby that died, each one of them had a little, like a ditty bag around their neck with a $1 bill in it and everything they owned, which was nothing. And it had a drawstring on it, and it had a safety pin in their shirt. Well, the safety pin ripped out of that one shirt, and the drawstring choked that child to death. But the other babies survived. You and I, when those seats broke loose, would have got killed, our heads. But they were sitting down in the
Wow.
seats in a cocoon.
So,
Wow.
And when the seats tumbled, they didn't come out. They didn't hit their head.
God.
And 100 of those 144 went back to Vietnam 4 April of last year for the 50th reunion.
Did you hear that? Yeah.
100 of those.
wow.
You think about that. I mean, you know, you think about the gift even in the midst of a tragic day that here are, and I'm reminded, you know, the scripture says when your mother and father forsake you, I'll lift you up, God says. And the preciousness of life in that. And now, Ray, think about those communities. So 100 returned, 144 lived, 100 returned. How many families have been produced by those 144 people?
Oh, lots of them.
Think about that. So
I'm friends with so many of these kids now. I'm friends with about 50 of them.
where did
I'm
a lot of
close with
them? Where did a lot of them end up when they came here to the United
Well, they're
States?
all over the United States.
all over the world, right?
Yeah.
Or all over the United
world.
States.
Yeah, Australia took some of them then,
Okay.
and then French and British took a lot of them to Europe too.
When this all happened, was there any that you know of historically? Was there any response from President Ford at that time when the plane crashed and all that? Was there any type of statement from the White House or
Yes.
anything like that?
Yes,
What-
I have a statement from
Really?
President Ford. Yes,
So
we
what?
all got it.
What would he have said, to the best of your memory, on what he said on that?
He was talking about the skill of the crew to save so many people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the bravery and all that. And I should have brought that today with me.
Were you awarded any special medal, ribbon,
I got the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Airman's Medal for Heroism.
which I don't know, but it sounds like those are tough to get, and they don't
Yeah.
hand those out every day.
Right.
Are those some of the highest awards?
The Distinguished Flying Cross is like 6th or 7th under the Medal of Honor.
Unbelievable.
That's incredible.
Unbelievable. You know, Ray, your life has reminded us all that God uses us in different ways to not only encourage people, but really for you to save a generation. I mean, think about that. That God would allow you to go on a mission that would gain worldwide attention, not for probably the thrill of victory, but there was a lot of defeat that day. But God allowed you. I often think when you tell those stories of, the being pulled back upstairs, being thrown in your seat, finding your seatbelt, those aren't accidents.
No. Everything happens for a reason.
That,
I believe that.
That is God saying,
Yeah, it's a God saying.
I have a plan for your life. I have a plan for your life, and you're going to live to tell about it. And it's ultimately a glory story. Joe, final thoughts, because this has been an episode.
Final thoughts. I want 2 more hours with Ray.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Yeah. I think we'll definitely have to have him back.
We're going to have you back, but thank you. Thank you for your service.
And I'll bring the book this next time with the President Ford's letter in it. It's I Love Me book. It's all about the crash.
Oh, my goodness.
I would love that. I will be looking up the documentary.
Yeah.
I'll be watching that.
Yeah. 2 Emmys out on a show right now about Operation Babylift.
Yeah.
It's up for 2
50th
Emmys.
anniversary.
50th anniversary. Wow. Ray, where do you live currently? How are you staying connected to community? That would be probably a great way to end this time together.
Well, I give speeches all over the country, about this. And in fact, I'm speaking June the 3rd at 1 o'clock at the Air Force Museum. You guys are welcome to come.
Unbelievable.
And I'll have a PowerPoint. Shows the crash and shows everything.
I'd love to get deeper.
Yeah.
You have been a real treat for our viewers, our listeners.
Yeah.
This is going to be a very popular podcast for sure.
I'll come back.
Thank you.
Your service to our country is amazing.
Yeah,
your heroism, your courage, your bravery, from a tenant farmer in Kentucky, all the way to a man who risked life and limb to protect life.
Absolutely.
It's a reminder of our goodness that we see in our Savior. He was willing to lay down his life. In 1984, I moved from our nation's capital here to Middletown, Ohio. And I'll never forget growing up in Washington, D.C., and we lived in the outskirts of Alexandria, Virginia. And I'll never forget early on as a kid seeing this poster or sign. All that went gave some, and some that went gave all. And you gave so much, and your gift is a gift to so many. So thank you.
Thank you for blessing us.
Okay.
Folks, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you. Please share this one because everybody has to see it. Thank you. God bless.